First of all, we've got a minor scope change that was brought up on the IBC project. I will let Guillaume describe it in more detail, but the summary is like this, that through architectural discussions, a few things were added into the scope, and then there was a component related to Node.js that is being requested to trade off. And so while offline in other discussions, there's been support for this, we don't want to just make these changes without bringing it to the whole coalition and have everybody approve the change. So kind of with that in mind, Guillaume, why don't you just take a few moments to describe what's been added, what's been taken out. If anybody has any questions about it, we can go into it, spend some time. If not, we can take a formal vote from the coalition that we agree that this change is good to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been a number of, increases in terms of scope for the instant finality side of the mandate that we have. Mostly they have to do with expanding the range of use cases that this modification to the code base will enable. A lot of it has to do with the addition of essentially pairing-based cryptography primitives in the code base, as well as expanding the scope of the consensus mechanism changes that will yield the instant finality benefits that we all know about, but also additional flexibility when it comes to configuration of the envelope software for other types of governance structures. All of this is all very, very positive. These scope increases we're willing to take at no additional cost to the coalition. They impact our timelines a little bit, but not the final milestones. Like it just kind of essentially involve reshuffling some of the earlier milestones. The final ones stay where they are, so the deliverables are still essentially we're still on schedule for everything else. There's been one slight scope reduction as well. That is essentially it's a decision that has been taken in concert with the ENF engineers. Originally in the contract, we had a milestone that was scheduled for much later in the project, but that we were able to complete a lot sooner than expected. And it was to add some data structures to the proof generation server that we use for IBC. We ended up implementing these because it was just more convenient to use these immediately rather than build a complicated overlay to the existing history solutions. So we ended up doing it anyway. And originally we had in the contract, we were going to do it inside of Node.js itself. So it was going to be part of the Node.js software. But after discussing with few node operators as well as ENF engineers, we reached consensus on the notion of separating this from Node.js and running it as a standalone solution. So it was simpler to do it that way, and it gives us also more flexibility when it comes to deployment and operation of that infrastructure. That milestone has already been completed. It's already actively used in the IBC software stack that we're running and that other teams are currently running. So essentially, like the only change in the contract is the milestone said that these data structures would be added to Node.js. We decided to do it as a standalone application instead. So it would just mean removing that in Node.js, essentially like line from the contract, and that milestone is good to go as it is. So I would like to propose a vote for the other chains to decide if that's acceptable.
Are there any questions first before we go to a vote?
I guess just for clarification, Do you recall off the top of your mind which milestone that is? Is it number 3?
No, it was something like number 15 or something like that.
Okay.
So that's
Just
much further down.
maybe just for the voting record purpose, if I don't know if Jeff, if or you know if you have that accessible, kind of what the what the milestone number is, and you did confirm last time that it was a standalone milestone, right? So it doesn't encompass anything else. So maybe for reference as well, because I'm guessing if it's later down the list, that means financially that's a Telos wax item. Just as we bring up the vote, just to mention kind of what that what that milestone is, type of thing, just so people know
Yes.
exactly what they're voting for.
So I'm pulling it up right now.
Thank you.
Yep. This is for instant finality. Is that right?
No, that's in for IBC.
Okay. And here we go. All right. So we have, I believe, let's see, this in IBC. Okay, there's number 7 right here. Can you confirm that, Guillaume? But I believe,
Yep. This is correct. Yep,
Yeah.
number 7. So yeah, it was scheduled for November this year, but we have it completed now. It's just at this point, like it's already in production. It's already being used.
any other questions? All right. Are we ready to vote on this, or how do you vote? Let's go with EOS first.
I agree. I support. Yes.
Okay. What?
Job on that.
Let's say yes from Wex.
Tell us.
That's a yes from us.
Okay. And I'm the U.S. states in this one.
I would like to add for others, because we've got, for example, Aaron on the call. I am a firm supporter of, if work can be done sooner and milestones can be reached faster than what they were intended to be, I fully support that. So that would apply to anybody and everybody working on any of the work that we've assigned. If we can somehow get things delivered sooner, that's awesome.
Yeah, I probably should go. I'll respond to that and say that is, in fact, I think another project recently had that discussion, and the answer is always, if they finish the same scope, but they're just finishing it sooner, nobody needs to approve anything. They just beat the deadline. That's one of the reasons, the benefits of you guys having milestone-based payments is there's incentive for the workers to get it done faster. We know that the liability is tied to that, and I think we all win if things go smoother and faster.
I think that we should, I totally agree with the one caveat that it shouldn't come at the expense of other milestones. And if it does, that's the point where we need to probably talk about it, I think.
Agreed. All right.
Yeah, for the record, just there's this one, and we have another few that we will be releasing very shortly. And in that particular case, So it is exactly as you said, Douglas. These do not affect the rest of our milestones. It's a different team that is working on these. So they were planned for later in our schedule, but they are going to be released shortly.
All right. While we're on the topic, Young, do you have anything else you want to add for instant finality update?
We have reached another decision earlier this week. There was a library that we were going to we're planning to use that we decided instead to implement ourselves. So there's a few reasons for that. In general, the ENF engineers don't really like adding external dependencies when they can avoid it. So that's one reason. And then as we kind of looked into that library a little bit more, we realized that it was not as performant as it could be, and rewriting it from not necessarily from scratch, but like porting a more efficient version of it would be definitely like a performance gain. And for things that are quite important, such as signature verification in the context of WASM, WebAssembly, these like every little bit helps. So as we discussed it with the ENF engineers, we decided to take this as a kind of slightly longer approach, but also we hired additional personnel to take care of that, so that will also not impact the other milestones that follow.
All right. Any follow questions on instant finality or IBC? All right. Next one. Top one here, the P2P optimized transaction propagation. Just as a reminder, we're holding this on the board for a few weeks, but it'll be a couple weeks before ENF has like an update on this, given the priority of the March release. And of course, Ted or Bart, if I'm misspeaking, please jump in and correct me. Same thing. Go ahead.
That and the fact that I believe we need to do some communication with OCI that we haven't exactly explained to them yet. Bart, do you concur on that?
Yes, sorry. I was searching for my mute button.
They'll start to, Bart and I have a meeting with them at 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we'll explain a lot of this to them at that time.
Perfect. Similarly, the RAM limitation fixes are also in the same boat as we are drafting our proposal for that. And I don't believe, again, we're still quite promising a timeline, but we're pretty close on it.
Again, affected by the release that's coming out at, in less, around 2 weeks from now. I think that has just got everything under complete stress at the moment.
Yep. All right, peer-to-peer discovery. As I mentioned last week, the project has kicked off. The project team will begin really the weekly status reporting actually later, I think tomorrow or either early next week. I forget which, but certainly before our next coalition meeting. What I expect to come out of that is the next layer of the milestones kind of broken down into deliverables that support those milestones. We'll start going through any issues, risks. Again, this is a new vendor that's working on the core protocol, but with the caveat that it's sort of that side component that, with the guardrails that Bart defined. So once we start getting something substantive, I think there will be some interest in, I'll bring as much information back to this group so everybody can get a sense, and I'll make sure everybody is aware of that we publish monthly the status reports on that. All right, coalition top up. I believe Douglas, the remaining item on this is you're going to discuss something on a Monday meeting. Is that still your plan forward?
Yeah, I'd like to. Our most recent Monday meeting was taken up with something else, and I don't think there's any great hurry on this. So, so let's see what comes up for this coming Monday's meeting.
Sounds good. All right, next item, Antler CDT. Again, is just like last week. I believe we are still doing well with the in-scope items. Not quite complete across the board. Some of the components have been completed, but those are being prepared for the March release, or for the I believe, Ted, it's the JungleNet release in March, and then depending on how long the test period goes, production would be probably a few weeks after that.
Oh, probably more than a few weeks.
So, okay. Any questions on the Antler CDT? Yeah, good. Not expecting them. When I say, hey, the status is exactly like last week and people are building stuff, I know there's not often time for questions.
Sorry,
There.
I confused the Antler in my head. That should be Antlers on my head. I think 2 weeks is very reasonable. I was incorrect in that statement.
All right, next one, Ledger app. Ted, would you like to give us the update? I think you spoke with them again this week.
I did. Thank you. So the two things we kind of wanted to know is, could we have a fifth one? And they said, yeah. They said, you don't have to have a symbol after it. So then I asked, I was a little late in getting my email back to them, so I don't have a response yet. I said, how is your search index built? So when they search for EOS, can we make sure that both Antelope and the EOS app show up? Or I haven't gotten the answer back on that. He said, yes, we could do the concept of building like the quote Ethereum app, which then has little 10 KB heads on top of it, as Aaron was explaining to us on the last call. That will probably take more work. I don't have all the details on that, but it would be like, there would be an Antelope app that you'd have to install first. And then you would just install these 4 smaller apps, which would have the pieces that are unique to each of the chains, which in reality may just simply be, some logos or co-marketing things or something like that. So I don't have the details on that, but that is possible. So we're continuing to, drill down that. At some point, for that answer, I'm going to need Eric Bart will have to agree that Eric can take that level, and Eric would need to drill down and look at the build system and makefile system and understand what are the separable pieces and how he has to do that. But that's sort of good news. That's what Aaron was saying seems to be somewhat possible. And if we could do that, then really what the Antelope app would be the base app. And then you could have the 4 different heads, and we could even make it where there was kind of a unified head, which maybe is called the Antelope head. So there would be a base app and 5 heads, and the Antelope head would mean I work with all 4 chains, and the other ones could be if people really just want one chain, or then they started with one chain, they want to add a second, whatever. It would work with all chains with any one of these, at least in the initial stages. So more work to do, but it's looking better each time I talk to Thomas Jacobs there. That's the status. Any questions on that? Great.
I would say I appreciate that Adam Carr has been assigned the project manager. He's reached out, and everybody has been working with him very quickly on the components that he'll need. So again, thank you. And keep on that so that we don't have delays.
Yeah, we'll need all that stuff regardless of what the underlying bits look like on the device. We'll still need all of those materials done.
All right. Final item today. Aaron, is there any update on SDK you would like to provide?
I can give a quick update. We are in the wallet integration phase at this point. Yesterday on our call went over this, so you can get a lot more detail on that if you'd like to catch up on that. We started on both Anchor and the Wax Cloud wallet. The Wax Cloud wallet integration is like 95% complete at this point. It's providing a pretty good experience. The Anchor one, we're still porting our code over. We have a lot more subcomponents to it. Looking for a good place to start on Scatter, the Scatter protocol for, wallets that support that. And the design itself is going to be, I just this morning saw kind of, revision 3, I think it was, of what that could look like. And hopefully in the not too distant future, there should be actual prototypes in the wild that you can see, feel, experience, and use with whatever wallet you guys all use, and kind of see this all starting to come together. So pretty excited with where it's heading, and being able to share that with the builders in the community.
That's awesome, man. Quick heads up, Aaron. We are migrating Cloud Wallet to its own domain. It's going to be mycloudwallet.com. The wallet is essentially moving towards being a multi-chain platform, not only Wax specific. So
Awesome.
I'll send you new URLs for API integrations, and then there's going to be a new JS library.
Awesome.
And then new wallet UX, including all the bridging functions, is going to be launching most likely next week. And that's going to be kind of our baseline towards Cloud Wallet becoming more of like a multi-chain Swiss Army knife to move assets around between the chains.
That sounds awesome. And they want to connect with whoever's working on this, your engineers on that side at some point then?
Yeah, for sure.
I was just going to say, I feel as if Wax.js or whatever this new library is doing is only facilitating kind of the Cloud Wallet functionality, that either we can leverage that or that could just become a plugin in this system for, so
Right.
figuring out how that relationship works moving forward would be awesome.
Do we have Slack channel already set up with your org?
No.
Wax Slack? No? Okay.
Well, let's definitely do that.
That's a travesty. Let's fix
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah,
I'll set it up, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, good discussion. Anything else for today? All right, I'm calling it. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We'll talk to some of you all Monday, the rest of you next Thursday.
Thanks, everybody. Great to see you guys. Have a good one.
That was awesome.
Take care.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Cheers.